It's gonna be a good day, and all my troubles gonna fly away. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk to you about my excitement about the Supreme Court decision. I just got off of a podcast, so I'm kind of hyper from being asked to be on my friend Leslie's podcast over at the Radical Center. But what I wanted to talk to you about was just why I'm excited and why, as a minority, I believe that this is one of the best things that could have happened for our country and especially for our children moving forward. I guess I'll just start with telling you my own personal experience and why I don't believe that affirmative action was ever a good thing. So a lot of people think I'm kind of a Pollyanna and that I always see the good in things. And I don't find that accurate, but I also don't find it insulting. So when I was a kid, I was involved in theater. And when I was 17 years old, I was part of a theater company in my little tiny town in rural Washington state. And before I joined, the person who was playing Orlando and As You Like It came up to me and said, I really want you to be in this. We lost our leading lady, and I think you'd be great. And so I came and I did the audition, and the whole cast was really impressed, and they liked what I'd done. But the director was really hesitant. And when I mean really hesitant, I mean he was flat out a bigot. And he said, I just don't see Rosalind as being a Black woman. It doesn't matter if you're good. I don't see that. And I just was like, well, I'm what you've got. So that's how that went. And the rest of the cast, because I feel like you should always give credit where credit is due. So the rest of the cast was really excited and they went to bat for me. And I did end up playing Rosalind. And then the next year, the assistant director came and asked me to come back and to play Kate. And again, the director really didn't want me to play that role. And at that same time, I was being accepted into a performing arts college. And when the director came to ask me to play the role, I remembered how cruel and insensitive and really bigoted this person was, and how he could not get it out of his head that I just happened to be of color. And so I truly did. I made him get down on his knees and beg me to do this. Which you could say that was a diva, that was entitled. I was 17 years old. Another thing that happened right as I was playing Rosalind, all these people are out in the park, and there's this old man, and he gets up and he starts to throw a fit and say Shakespeare didn't have Black actresses. And his wife kind of calmed him down, and he stayed and he watched the whole show. So if you put yourself in my shoes, I'm just a kid and I'm getting ready to go on stage. And before I go on stage, a man makes very public racist comments about me. And I had to just kind of take a deep breath, remember that it wasn't about me, that I was going to play a character, and go out on stage and give it my all. And after I gave it my all, the man personally came up to me, tears in his eyes, and apologized. So within 2.5 hours or whatever it was to perform that show, I was able to change the hearts and minds of someone because I believed in myself and had confidence and didn't let anything get in my way. That is what I think affirmative action takes away from people. I do believe that there was a time when affirmative action would have been necessary. I think that there was a time when Black people, no matter how talented, how smart, how gifted they were shoe shiners or were housemaids, and they didn't have the same opportunities. And so in those cases of choosing the very best, choosing the gifted mathematicians and sending them to NASA, I think that those opportunities were essential back then. But what we're not paying attention to is what's happening now, which is we're not sending our best. We are sending people who are going to school solely to disrupt, solely to have this attitude of entitlement. And meanwhile, people who are working so hard to be the best at what they do are being rejected. I'm aware of people who have been told that we aren't taking any more white men. And that seems so vile to me. But also, what seems so vile to me is saying that we have to pave the way. We, as white people, have to pave the way and make pathways open for people who could not somehow achieve without that assistance. It's very much a white savior mentality. And I think it is extremely harmful because it tells Black people you can't do anything without the assistance of someone else. The other thing that I find extremely damaging is that when Black people who have achieved go about and tell other people, like Michelle Obama making her announcement that we've set ourselves backwards, that Black people cannot achieve without these assistances. That's not true. Black people will not be able to achieve as long as they are told that they are incapable. As long as that message is either quietly told to you or loudly banged or said in speeches or in graduations or by presidents of universities, as long as it's said that we must open the door for these people to have an opportunity, and as long as people who are not the best are being lifted up and magnified, I think we had a real problem. Now I believe that we can start to address that problem. If I were in that situation of deciding whether or not my son was going to go to college, I would not want there to be well, you can rely on the fact that you are a person of color. I also wouldn't want somebody to reject him as being a person of color and to shame him because he appears to be white, because that's such a minute part of who a person is. It does not mean that every place that you go that people don't see your color. The question is how much it matters to them. And in my experience, it matters far more to the academic mindset. It also matters far more to the Black community who has been taught to keep others down while rising personally yourself. I love that the statement is that any single person who applies themselves can achieve. And I've seen some posts that have been kind of disappointing, where the comments are that legacies are protected, because I think people are ignorant to think that there are not minorities that are legacies, that there are not Black people who have been successful and have been free since slavery. Since before slavery, there were free Black people. I just recently portrayed Harriet Tubman, and her own father was a freed slave, but there were people who were born free even back then. And to tell this story, to tell a false narrative is just inauthentic and takes away the heroes for our young people. What I've always believed is that we should celebrate, one of the kind of woke words, but we should celebrate people's accomplishments. We should not just celebrate their inalienable characteristics. You shouldn't be celebrated just because you are attracted to someone of the opposite sex. It shouldn't matter. You should be valued for the human being that you are. I should not be celebrated or lifted on a platform or even feared for having a viewpoint that's different because reduced solely to the color of my skin. Our country does have a huge problem with bigotry. It's funny to me that a lot of people will claim that white supremacy is the biggest problem in America. In a way, I do believe that that's true, but that's white supremacy coming from academia, not coming from your everyday human being who just wants to be left alone. And when these people say that white supremacy is the biggest problem, they say, so trust us to fix it. If you trust somebody else to fix your problems, that means you don't believe in your own ability to fix your problems. So, my friends, if you are young and you happen to stumble across this, the best way to get a proper education is to put down your cell phone and to go get a book and read it. The best way, and not just one point of view. So if you want to read the 1619 Project or anything by Ibram X. Kendi, go ahead and do it. But also consider picking up a book by Thomas Sowell so that you have a full, well-rounded viewpoint of what people are thinking. If somebody tells you not to consider this other point of view, they probably don't have your best interests at heart. They don't want you to have an expanded mind. If somebody tells you that this is crushing your ability, then honestly, I feel like they kind of hate you. So one of the things that I've heard about and kind of gotten attacked for is that I've been told I live in an imaginary world where there is no such thing as racism. As I told you before at the beginning of this video, I absolutely believe that there is racism. And I absolutely believe that slavery and the harsh treatment and the ability to see others as less than you are is evil. But then you have to ask yourself, who's doing that? Who over the last few years has used the term inessential to talk about other people? Who has had slaves? Because if you believe that it's only an American thing, or that slavery in other countries was nowhere near as harsh as it has been in America, then you don't have a true viewpoint of history. People have always looked at people who they deemed inferior and tried to overpower them, even if they were the same color as them. This is still happening today in other countries. It's still happening in America. People are trying to overpower. Look at DEI advisors. DEI advisors are going into schools and they are saying who's important, who should be protected, and who should not be. All of these things about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I really hope that the Supreme Court decision will start to address those things in our colleges and now coming into our schools. Currently, we have Title IX, and it's been changed to not just be a 27-word guidance, but instead to be hundreds of pages of guidance of how discrimination can take place and who should be protected. Now, if there's a group that should be protected, then that means necessarily that there is a group that should not be protected. So you have to think deeper than that kind of surface level. And that's the thing, is that we have to look at people as individuals. This is the best way, I believe, that we can have true self-confidence. Not this artificial, you're important because of X, Y, and Z, but you are valid because of the contributions that you bring to the table. And the contributions can't be my lived experience. The contributions have to be, I can help this grow. I can help this be more expansive. I can help a company be more successful. Not just this view of narcissism and this view of it's all about me. Merit is what makes this country great. And merit is what makes any business, any university, and really society succeed.